Hey everyone, it's Eric with firearmtutorials.com. So I figured I'd do a little update on my reloading area and where I work on most of my guns now. So I recently built this bench just in the last month or so, just because the old cheap workbench I had, I didn't feel like the press was sturdy enough, especially when trying to reload rifle cartridges. There was too much wobble. So I went ahead and built this is a 6-foot bench and went with the strong mount for the Dillon press. So give you guys a quick look at what kind of stuff I've got and how I set it up. So like I said, this is a 6-foot long bench, 36 inches tall, and I've actually got 3 sheets of plywood here for the tabletop. I sanded this down and just put some stain on it so it's not as splintery. I kind of went as cheap as possible with this. In lieu of using 4x4s you see for the legs, I just doubled up 2x4s. Bolted everything together, screwed it together, and it's just as sturdy as I could want it. But I've tried to keep this organized. We'll see if it actually stays that way. Usually my work areas get pretty cluttered. You can see this one kind of just got random tools around. But so you see I've kind of got it set up where I've got, you know, brass that needs to be processed, brass that's already been processed. I drilled some holes in this wood back here so that I could just kind of stick my primer tubes in there, kind of keeps them out of the way. I've got the scale there, some dies, some odds and ends parts, some vise blocks and things for working on them. I've got some extra Dillon stuff. Over here I've got all of the cleaners and lubricants and a couple flashlights. Kind of came up with this neat idea just on the fly, where I just needed something neat that was kind of useful to hang stuff on. So see, like my frequently used tools, I've just got a couple 30-06 shells. I put some screws in at an angle and then put the shells over the top and then just hammered them in. This is just soft wood. So, you know, hanging a caliper and the Gunsmith hammer, gas mask, if I'm using some nasty chemicals or sanding or anything. The sway jar just got sold today on ar15.com, so I'll be shipping that out shortly. Of course, the Dillon 650, I had to modify this a little bit. I'll talk about that shortly, but just a couple basic stools, and this chair right here I've actually had since I was about 7 years old, and it's almost in just as good a condition as the day I got it. Just a real sturdy chair. The old work area I still kind of use, just kind of keep my tools off to the side. You see I've still got the vise on there. This little vise is pretty cool. I put a $1 bill so you can see the size of it, but you know, if you're working on guns and you want to hold like some springs in place or anything like that, small pieces that you want to use a vise for but don't want to use a bigger vise, that's come in handy, and they're really cheap. So ideas for some of you guys. Down at the bottom I've kind of just got my reloading supplies. You see I've got some cases, powders, primers, bullets, all the good stuff. Got a Weller soldering iron down there. Some odds and ends parts, some factory ammo I usually use to check the overall length of my reloads. You see the flag back there, that's actually a Coast Guard flag, which is pretty cool. The Coast Guard doesn't get a lot of rep. So I like to represent those guys. Gun vise, the old hand press, a couple DeWalt drills, some more dies. This toolbox is pretty cool, a Montezuma toolbox. I'm not a tool guy, but see this thing kind of just lifts up, and then I've got various sockets, wrenches in the back there. See that? They all kind of hang back there. Some bigger tools in the back. I've got some saws and stuff, and then underneath here is like just pliers. Here's some more gun specific stuff. So it's a real well built box. Underneath here you see I've got the my primer catch. But I like this box because it's got a, see if I can give you a look at it. This underneath here, there's a nice seal, so it keeps the bugs out of here, and hopefully will keep the moisture out of there for the summer. You know, I'm in Florida, so a lot of my tools get moisture on them and start to get rusty, so hopefully that will help. So like I mentioned, I had to do a little bit of a modification to this Dillon press. Some of you guys might notice it right off the bat, but what I've got here, you see I've got my actual garage rail. There was some holes right up in here that I was able to hang these halogen lights down, so those have worked out well for me. And I knew I was going to have this issue with the height of the bench, but I thought I was going to squeak by, and didn't end up happening. So you see the size of these beams for my garage door. Luckily I didn't just open the garage and crunch my case feeder, but basically the case feeder ended up being too tall, so my only other option was to, you know, move the refrigerator and the rest of the stuff in my garage and move it down, or come up with some way to fit this in here. The main problem was the added height from the strong mount. So I did some quick measuring, knew it would be close, but with as thick as I decided to put this top here, I didn't quite make it. So what I ended up doing was cutting a section. This is the actual bar that comes with the press, which normally would have, actually I think I saved the sections, yeah, right here. So I ended up just cutting these with a hacksaw. Took off just the right amount that I needed. You see I had to cut the tube here too. So I had to cut this tube shorter in addition to this. I didn't want to cut the case feeder itself in case I ever want to sell it or anything like that. This piece I checked from Dillon was like, I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks. So I figured worst case I just spend another 20 or 30 bucks to get a new one of those. But the only negative is now that this tube is a little bit shorter, so it doesn't hold as many cases, but with the case feeder I didn't think it really mattered because it's just going to automatically feed them in there. And this bench is much sturdier than the last one. I tried to avoid anchoring it to the wall because you see this is just cinder block back here, and I didn't want to have to deal with drilling through the cinder block and attaching the table to it. So this toolbox underneath is 98 pounds by itself. So with the tools in there, it ends up being, gosh, I don't know, at least 200 pounds. So by the time I put the boards down there so that I could use that as storage and scooted the toolbox back there, it gave me the extra weight I needed to hold this bench area snugly in place. So it's worked out pretty good. Like I said, I've got the little gun vise down there, so I can either use this table or this area to work on guns, which I've posted a couple videos of that in play. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Currently, I'm not really able to reply to any of my YouTube comments. So you can either just email me, eric@firearmtutorials.com, or, you know, hit me on Facebook or something. So that's it. Thanks for watching.